ChinaArnold was born on March 29, 1980, in Dayton, Ohio. She is an American convicted murderer. The jury that convicted ChinaArnold of killing her baby in a microwave oven recommended life without the possibility of parole Friday, sparing he, the Dayton mother, of a possible death sentence. The 12-member jury made the recommendation to Montgomery County Common Pleas Judge Mary Wiseman. Wiseman immediately sentenced Arnold, 31, who remained quiet in the courtroom, to life in prison. Arnold declined to make a statement in court. Wiseman told Arnold she would be appointed appellate counsel since she has a right to appeal. Jurors convicted Arnold on May 13th of aggravated murder in the death of her 28-day-old daughter, ParisTalley, in 2005. Because it was a capital case, the trial had 2 phases, and the sentencing phase started Thursday. Jurors got the case after 6 p.m. Thursday and deliberated until 8:30 before stopping for the night. They resumed deliberations at 8:30 a.m. Friday before returning a recommendation around 12:20 p.m. Assistant County Prosecutor David Franciscelli said the jury's decision not to recommend death did not disappoint him. "I respect their decision," he said. "This defendant will spend the remainder of her living days in a prison." Defense attorney John Paul Ryan, too, seemingly relieved by the life sentence, offered the jury a word of thanks just before Wiseman discharged them. None of the attorneys made additional statements in open court during the brief sentencing. After the sentencing, Ryan said he was happy that the jury saw that Arnold's life had worth. He also promised new appeals. "The fight's not over," Ryan said. "There are witnesses out there that know China is innocent." Ryan said judicial rulings prevented him from presenting those witnesses. He said a team assembled from across the country will handle the appeals. Asked if his firm would be part of that team, Ryan responded, "We will assist China until she's a free lady." "We speak for the truth," said Arnold's aunt, Wanda J. Stewart. "She is innocent. We're going to let justice take its place." Stewart said she was relieved that the jury did not recommend death. "I'm glad they used common sense and maybe a little doubt," she said. The jury was instructed to weigh mitigating factors presented by the defense against the aggravating circumstance of purposely killing a child under age 13 while being the principal offender. The jury was given 4 choices: death, life without the possibility of parole, life with the possibility of parole after 30 years, or life with the possibility of parole after 25 years. After receiving her sentence, county sheriff's deputies escorted Arnold from the courtroom. She will be held in the county jail until she is handed over to the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction. Arnold's first trial ended in February 2008 in a mistrial after a boy came forward, after the defense had rested its case, and said he saw another child put the baby in the oven. The boy was 5 years old in August 2005. Arnold was convicted of all charges in September 2008 and sentenced to life without parole. Some witnesses from Arnold's prior 2 trials were not called, including Linda Williams, who testified in the first trial that Arnold told her she put the baby in the microwave, then testified in the second trial for the defense that her prior testimony was false. Another was the boy who testified for the defense in the second trial, where he saw another child place the baby in the microwave. In November, the Ohio 2nd District Court of Appeals reversed Arnold's second conviction, focusing on issues related to Williams's testimony. As for the possibility of another appeal, Franciscelli said that all defendants have that right, but he stood by the conviction, Arnold's second for her daughter's murder. Now there are 24 people who have found the defendant guilty as charged, he said. This defendant has been convicted twice by 2 separate juries. Arnold, who had been convicted of abduction in 2000 and forgery in 2002, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on September 8, 2008, for killing her 28-day-old daughter, Paris. The infant was placed in a microwave oven for what analysts suspect was longer than 2 minutes and died shortly after removal. The death occurred because her internal temperature reached critical temperatures. In the words of medical examiner Dr. Marcela Fierro, she was cooked. At the time, Arnold lived in a housing complex with her children and her boyfriend, Talley. Prosecutors said that she placed Paris into the microwave after an argument with Talley over the baby's paternity. She told investigators that she was intoxicated. Arnold took Paris to the hospital the next day, where she died of her injuries. Arnold was arrested initially, then released due to lack of evidence. She was rearrested in November 2006. Shortly after Arnold's first trial began, Talley told the Dayton Daily News that his son told him that he pulled the baby's lifeless body out of the microwave after a neighbor's boy had put her in there. The claim resulted in a mistrial. However, at the second trial, the mother of the boy in question established that he was not at the housing complex when Paris died, and Arnold was convicted of aggravated murder. On November 5, 2010, the Second District Court of Appeals reversed Arnold's conviction, citing misconduct by prosecutors and the court erring in not allowing material witnesses to testify in Arnold's defense. On May 13, 2011, a jury found Arnold guilty of aggravated murder. Her attorney had argued that the evidence pointed as much to Talley as it did Arnold. To no avail. Arnold has been incarcerated at the Ohio Reformatory for Women since September 11, 2008. On May 20, 2011, Arnold was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Her attorney says they will appeal the decision. The jury has reached a verdict in the case of a woman accused of killing her infant daughter by putting her in a microwave oven in 2005. The jury returned a guilty verdict around 11:45 a.m. against ChinaArnold on charges of aggravated murder. ParisTalley was 28 days old when she was killed. This is the third trial for Arnold in the case. She is now headed back to prison. Bishop Richard Cox with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference said, "She needs to be set free. She does not need to be incarcerated." As the verdict was read, Arnold's family burst into tears. Crystal McGee said, "China wanted this baby with all her heart. That's all she talked about was having a baby girl." Arnold's first trial ended in February 2008 in a mistrial after a boy who was 5 in August 2005 came forward after the defense had rested and said he saw another child put the baby in the oven. Arnold was convicted of all charges in September 2008 and sentenced to life without parole. The Ohio 2nd District Court of Appeals reversed that conviction in November, citing prosecutorial misconduct in her trial. However, on Friday, a second jury believed that Arnold put her daughter in a microwave oven and killed her. Her first trial ended in a mistrial. I asked the question, can she get a fair trial in Dayton? Too many people have heard of it, and they have already judged her, McGee said. This is racism. This is injustice, Cox said. Even though her first conviction came with a sentence of life in prison, it is possible that this jury could recommend the death penalty. Yes, I'm fearing for her life, McGee said. The 2nd District Court of Appeals reversed the conviction of ChinaArnold for the death of her daughter in a microwave oven. The Dayton mother was sentenced to life in prison in 2008 for killing her 1-month-old daughter. ParisTalley defense attorney John Paul Ryan said on Friday that he was thrilled with the ruling and said he realized from the first day that Arnold was innocent. During a news conference, Arnold's mother, Gloria Scott, said, "I was so overjoyed. It was so unbelievable. I just couldn't believe it. I never lost hope, said Kasha Scott, China's sister. Ryan said the conviction was reversed based on prosecutorial misconduct in her trial. The Court of Appeals has reversed and remanded the decision in ChinaArnold's case. That means she has a right to defend her innocence once again. We believe in her innocence. We believe that she is not guilty of any crime," Ryan said. The court not only handed Arnold a victory, but, in its decision, said the court found misconduct on the part of prosecutors in the case involving the testimony of the state's key witness who claimed that Arnold confessed that she killed her baby. Ryan said, stating that they hid witnesses, disobeyed court orders, and essentially tried to subvert the entire judicial process by their acts, denying China the right to a fair trial. Montgomery County Prosecutor Matthias H. Heck, Jr. said, "We are astonished that the Court of Appeals reversed the defendant's conviction." Heck said the prosecutors provided copies of all witness statements well before the trial. Moreover, the prosecutor's office arranged for defense counsel to interview the witness in question in a private office before she testified. Any testimony given by the witness at trial was consistent with the statements provided to the defense counsel in discovery. There were no surprises in the witness's trial testimony, and there was no ambush, Heck said. Heck said the judge conducted a conference prior to the trial, and at that time the state provided the defendant with the address of the witness 5 days before she testified. "We are concerned that the appellate court made no reference in its opinion to this conference and the decisions that the trial judge made at that time." According to prosecutors, the defense should not have had trouble locating the witness. Heck said defense counsel were well acquainted with the witness, having been her lawyers in an unrelated criminal case while the aggravated murder charges against the defendant were pending. The state will file a motion asking the Court of Appeals to reconsider its decision, given the existence of facts in the record that made clear the defense had ample opportunity to prepare the examination of this witness and that the defendant was provided a fair trial. For now, Arnold remains at the State Reformatory for Women in Marysville. However, she will likely be returning to the Montgomery County Jail. As for her family, they're just glad to have this one victory and a chance for another day in court. Gloria Scott said, "I knew the truth was going to come out, that China was coming home. I just knew it. You just get that feeling." ChinaArnold, 28, was spared the death penalty when the jury in Dayton, Ohio, failed to reach a consensus. Prosecutors said Arnold, who maintains she is innocent, killed her daughter in 2005 after a fight with her boyfriend. Judge Mary Wiseman said the crime was shocking and utterly abhorrent for a civilized society. "No adjectives exist to describe this heinous atrocity adequately," Judge Wiseman said, rejecting a plea by Arnold's lawyers for a sentence that allowed the possibility of parole after 25 years in prison. Arnold was not in court to hear her sentence, but she followed the proceedings with a video link from a side room. The court had heard that ChinaArnold had argued with her boyfriend, Talley, about whether he was the biological father of baby Paris. Officials investigating the case said ParisTalley had suffered high-heat internal burns but had no external marks. Prosecutors said that the baby's DNA had been found inside the microwave in Arnold's apartment. Arnold's cellmate told the court that she had confessed to putting her daughter in the microwave and switching it on because she was afraid that her boyfriend would leave her if he discovered that he was not the baby's father. The defense team said that there was evidence that somebody else was responsible for ParisTalley's death and that the cellmate had now changed her story. Arnold's lawyers now want a third trial. The first hearing was declared a mistrial when new witnesses came forward. Arnold has faith in the system. She is strong and will continue to fight until her innocence is proven, said her lawyer, John Paul Rion. Burns on a month-old girl whose mother is charged in her death resembled burns on a Virginia infant boy killed in a microwave oven. A forensic pathologist testified Tuesday. ChinaArnold, 28, of Dayton, is charged with aggravated murder, accused of killing her daughter ParisTalley in 2005 by burning her in a microwave oven. She could face the death penalty if convicted. Dr. Marcella Fierro testified during Arnold's trial in Dayton that the burn patterns were different from those seen in the Virginia case, but that the girl likely died after being burned in a microwave oven for more than 2 minutes. "I'd say several minutes, given the degree of burning," Fierro said. Fierro said she examined the baby boy in 1999 while working at the Virginia Chief Medical Examiner's office and that he had burns on his lower limbs because the microwave's heating Element was on a side closest to his legs. She said Talley's burns were on the front of her torso, limbs, and face because the heating element in Arnold's microwave was on its top. Talley died of excessive heating, not the burns, Fierro said. Also, Tuesday, an emergency room physician testified that he was surprised that Arnold seemed not to know the baby was burned. Dr. William Maitre said Arnold replied, "My baby's burned?" when asked if she knew how Talley had gotten the burns. "I was surprised I could be asked that question," Maitre said. "I thought the injuries were so obvious. I guess I was disgusted." A retired Dayton detective said investigators found a plastic bathtub with sediment at the bottom when they searched Arnold's apartment the day Talley died. "It looked like skin to me," Doyle Burke said. Burke said the burns on the torso, limbs, and parts of Talley's face puzzled him, and he had looked at items in the home, including the stove and oven, but had not considered the microwave. "I didn't know a microwave burnt like that," he said. He said he talked to Arnold about things witnesses had told him and that she changed her version of events several times. He asked Arnold where her 4 children were, and she told him she had locked 3 of them upstairs and that the baby was with her father. In Dayton, Ohio, in August 2005, ChinaArnold gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named ParisTalley. Unhappily for little ParisTalley, her mother was, in actuality, a murderess, hell beast with a criminal past. ChinaArnold had previously been convicted of abduction in 2000 and forgery in 2002. Naughty, naughty. The tiny, helpless baby, ParisTalley, was not destined for a long life. ParisTalley did not even enjoy a whole month of life. China, the hell. Bitch Arnold was having issues with her boyfriend. The most significant problem being the paternity of little ParisTalley. The boyfriend, Talley, denied the baby was his and therefore denied any responsibility as the father. BTW, DNA tests later showed Talley was the father. Another issue was the lack of fidelity. Talley confessed he'd had sex with a neighbor lady. ChinaArnold became murderously angry, and instead of making the boyfriend feel the power of her wrath, she chose to open the gates of hell upon 28-day-old ParisTalley. The date was August 29, 2005. ChinaArnold had decided if her boyfriend wasn't going to be a father, then she wouldn't be a mother. So there, her weapon of choice was the microwave. This tears my heart out. Truly, it does. I was much happier not knowing. To make it clear just how evil the hell beast ChinaArnold is, she cooked her baby to death. The day after ParisTalley was microwaved, ChinaArnold took her victim to the hospital. The emergency room physician, Dr. William Maitre, saw the burns on the tiny face, the small body, and the tiny limbs. When he asked ChinaArnold about those burns, she expressed surprise. "My baby has been burned." Dr. William Maitre was disgusted by ChinaArnold's feigned incredulity. The burns were too obvious to be missed. ParisTalley had no vital signs. The emergency room staff tried to revive the burnt baby, but it was far, far too late. ParisTalley was dead, murdered. That day, homicide detective Doyle Burke searched ChinaArnold's home at 415 Hall Avenue. He found a tub in the upstairs bathroom filled with cloudy water. "It looked to me like flaky skin," Detective Burke said. The detective also found a damp towel with dark sediment in the bathtub. He continued looking for anything in the house that could have caused baby ParisTalley's burns. "I probably walked by that microwave 24 times, Detective Burke said. "I didn't realize that it caused burns like that." Well, now we all know, Dr. Marcella Fierro, then Chief Medical Examiner for Virginia, said, "She died because she was overheated. She was cooked." Yup, little Paris was cooked for over 2 minutes, causing her internal organs to reach critical temperatures of 107 to 108 degrees Fahrenheit. ChinaArnold admitted to police that the baby woke her up at about 2:30 a.m. She also told police that she was alone, besides her other children who were asleep upstairs. There were no signs of a break-in. China, the hell beast Arnold, was arrested for murder right away but was soon released due to lack of evidence. In 2006, she was arrested again and stood her first trial for aggravated murder. That's right, her first trial. It wasn't easy to bring ChinaArnold to justice. It took 3 trials. At the end of trial number 1, Talley's son from a previous relationship was brought in as a surprise witness. The little boy testified he'd seen a neighborhood boy put the baby into the microwave, and he had taken baby Paris out. Talley's son was 5 years old at the time of the murder. This stunning testimony led to a mistrial. During trial number 2, the prosecution established that Talley's son had not even been in the area on August 29, 2005, so he could not have witnessed anything to do with the baby's murder. In other words, everything the little boy had said in trial number 1 was a big fat lie. I wonder if the little guy had been coached. In trial number 2, the prosecution had the taped testimony of ChinaArnold's cellmate Linda Williams. She stated that the hell bitch had admitted to microwaving the baby because she was afraid the boyfriend would leave if he found out he wasn't the father. So, if the cellmate told the truth, then ChinaArnold must have figured Talley would forgive her for nuking a baby, but not for cheating on him. Wow, that's not much of a character reference for Mr. Talley. She said she put the baby into the microwave and started it and left the house, Williams testified on tape. She also asked Arnold how she got the child into the oven. She said she fit right in, Williams said. At the end of trial number 2, ChinaArnold was convicted of aggravated murder. Yay! The jury couldn't decide on the death penalty or life in prison, so the judge sentenced her to life. Unhappily, the conviction did not last long. The 2nd District Court of Appeals reversed the conviction in September 2010 after her defense team protested they hadn't been allowed to bring in material witnesses. Prosecutors were also accused of misconduct. Linda Williams' recantation did not help. So in May 2011, ChinaArnold went to trial for the 3rd and hopefully last time, with Montgomery County Common Pleas Judge Mary Wiseman presiding. Defense attorney John Paul Ryan argued that the evidence pointed as much to Talley as it did to the child's mother, who Mr. Ryan said was drunk at the time. The prosecution told the jury ChinaArnold admitted to police that Paris woke her up at about 2:30 a.m. and that she was alone except for the children sleeping upstairs. The prosecution told the jury there were no signs of a break-in. The jury found China's murderous mom, Arnold, guilty of aggravated murder. Yay! The sentencing phase was delayed to allow for a mental exam to be conducted on the killer. 2 psychologists determined that ChinaArnold had an average IQ and no significant mental illness. Dr. Jeffrey Smalden said ChinaArnold suffered from a low-grade chronic depressive condition, as well as alcohol and drug abuse. He said he found nothing that would have justified the death of this child. In arguing for the death sentence, Assistant Montgomery County Prosecutor Dan Brandt told the jury members quite rightly that there were no factors that mitigate the purposeful murder of baby Paris in that microwave. Defense attorney Kevin Lennon said that the death penalty should go only to the worst offenders. She's not one of them? He pointed to evidence that his client was drunk at the time of the baby's death. Yeah, being drunk is an excellent excuse for murder. Assistant Prosecutor Dan Brandt told the jurors that the killer's actions were even more purposeful than a slaying with a gun or knife because she had to stuff the baby into the microwave, shut the door, press the buttons, and wait for 2 minutes to take baby Paris out. Don't let us forget that after she took the baby out, ChinaArnold put her in a tub of water where her skin peeled off and then waited until the next day to take her to the hospital when the little darling was already dead. I cannot imagine the pain and torment that tiny little child endured before she died. On May 20th, 2011, China POS hellbitch Arnold was sentenced to life in prison without parole. She and her attorneys are expected to appeal. Of course. ChinaArnold, has nothing else to do for the next few decades. I genuinely hope that this convicted killer suffers in the years ahead. She'd been blessed with a beautiful baby but chose to murder her in a disgustingly horrific manner. Baby Paris was deserving of a life. ChinaArnold is deserving of hell. So rot, ChinaArnold, and then join your fellow demon spawn in the fiery depths of hell.